Welcome to the Cult Classic Horror Show. Every week, you can have the conversations you've always wanted to have about the films you love.
Shut up!
We're gonna get you. Not another peep.
Get rid of your distractions and prepare yourself.
Fold and lock your door. 5, 6, crucifix.
You got a big surprise coming to you. You're not going anywhere.
Welcome, everybody, to the Cult Classic Horror Show. Danny Bonin here with you guys.
Scotty Bonin with you guys.
We are
the
Blood Brothers and Carmelo Chimera.
Oh, that man's back in.
Just kidding. My voice is back, bitches.
Yeah, damn right. I smell bacon.
We're apparently a 3-man podcast now. I don't know how else to get Rob to show up.
Yeah. I guess we could start auditioning as replacements.
The show must go on. The show must go on.
I talk to him like all the time. I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm doing the podcast this date. He's like, sounds good, doing it that date. And then here we are.
Sounds good. And then he said he felt crappy today, and there's the flu going through this.
Yeah, but he didn't officially say I can't make it. Let's reschedule. He just said, "Oh, flu's going through my house." And I was like, "Oh, that sucks."
Yeah.
Yeah, he did help us pick this night and time. So it's just so confusing when he participates in the scheduling and then doesn't show up.
Yeah.
So once again, I keep saying it.
That's work.
Just everyone go give Rob some shit. You know, I mean, we give him enough shit, he'll just he'll pop in.
He'll show up.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
only once he shows up for the movies he wants to watch. Only.
We all want him back. Yeah, you're right. He shows up for those movies.
Yes, we are talking about Stir of Echoes.
Ooh.
Stir.
That's why I said I smell bacon.
Class. All I remember from this movie is the heavily played Painted Black in the trailer.
Oh, yeah.
When this was coming out. Now, did it release in 99, Scotty, or did they just film it
Filmed in 98, released in 99.
Because I remember vividly. That sounds like a long time ago, and for me to have these memories. But I have vivid memories of the trailer of this and Painted Black being heavily used, and then vivid memories of seeing this movie for the first time when it came out, and like being freaked out.
Theaters, or we saw it. Like,
I don't know that I saw it in theaters. I don't think I saw it in theaters.
Maybe not. Maybe we just But I bought the DVD right away. I'm like, dude, fucking love this.
Yeah, and I remember it being pretty scary when it came out. Now you watch it, some of the gimmicks are a little old, but it was pretty scary at the time. It's funny. The director talked about how like you could see Kevin Bacon's breath in that whole sequence, and he said 99 was the year of seeing breath in horror movies, and we didn't even plan it that way. It's just like they filmed it in 98, and he had the idea 2 years before that. And
what? How funny is that?
Yep.
Lots of steam coming off the bathtub.
Yes. We'll get into it because it was a mix of fake and real.
Ooh, interesting.
I got some stuff. This was how you do a commentary. You know what's best is when you just have a director doing a commentary. Yeah. That's honestly just like the most information you're going to get from a movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like to think that when we do we've done the commentaries for some of our films and these live commentaries that we actually do a pretty good job when there's the three of us at divulging things that like a podcast like us would like to hear. You know what I mean? And
yeah, we tell stories from the set. Remember when this happened? Remember when that happened? And
And
of course, he was the director and the screenplay writer, so it helps. Like Carmelo does that too, screenplay, director, and we all collaborate. So you get so much more information.
But as you can imagine, like if Carmelo is sitting there doing a commentary by himself, it could be awkward. You feel like you got to talk the whole time, and so you're divulging just every little thing you can about
you know every ounce of it because you wrote it, you directed it. You like know every like minuscule little like part of what happens in the movie.
Carmelo? Did you I know you watched it like a week or two ago. Was that your first viewing, or have you seen this movie before?
No, it was. It was my first viewing of this movie.
Really? No
Yeah,
way.
I had never seen it before.
What's your initial thoughts, reactions? What do you think?
I really liked it. I thought it was it felt very like Sixth Sense to me, which I think is even also 1999 or maybe 2000. So it's
Definitely.
like right in that same wheelhouse.
Yep.
And I think it wasn't scary. I wasn't really like nail biting, like, oh my God, but it was a real thriller. And I really was like on the edge of my seat. I was like, oh, what's going on? There's these premonitions, there's these visions, there's a ghost, there's this guy going a little Jack Torrance and tearing up his house. And so there was a lot of good intrigue. And I thought that it was really engaging and very well acted. I mean, Kevin Bacon really does a spectacular job in here. And there's really no weak link in the cast either. I mean, he's the clear, winner, but everybody does a good job. So I really liked it. I mean, I think if you asked me if it was like a really scary horror movie, I would have characterized it more as a thriller. Yeah. But it's a ghost story, right? So it is, it is like this genre. It is our genre. It's just, more suspenseful than anything.
Well, I always thought of it as Did you, Scotty? Like, I always remembered it as a scary movie, but I saw it in '99 when I was 14, and like it was sort of cutting edge at the time. You know what I mean?
I remember it was like very like disturbing because I do remember before I watched it, I do remember like the fingernails cracking, the tooth getting ripped out, him like ripping his tooth. I remember like there was like some disturbing parts that I wanted to look away at. Yeah. I don't remember like it being one of those movies where I had to sleep with the light on when I came home at night, like some of the other possession movies. But we did.
I think it was one of the first movies, and maybe you remember this, that stuck with me was her movement.
Yes,
the like gyration.
I think this was pre-Ring, right? It wasn't Ring 2001 or something like that.
I think you're right. The Ring was, I want to say 2003, maybe.
Okay, Scotty's probably gonna look it up right now. Yeah. But I think it was the first time we saw this weird jerky movement in a ghost demon girl, and
and it's cool. As soon as it happened, I was like, oh yeah, I love that thing.
That one's very
2002 with the Ring.
2002. Okay. Yeah. So now it's used,
that was one of the thing. Creepy Kozak girl walk. That was one of the. There was some scary moments, but like it wasn't like one of those ones like where you like have nightmares. But it was definitely edge your seat. Like what's happening next? Psychologically getting in your head. Like is he like is he having visions or is it all in his head? Like what's happening here? So it was definitely. Yeah, like edge your seat. What's going to happen next? Yeah. And I thought it was very well done.
Yeah, this is a quality film. This is a good movie. This is like Friday night looking for a good movie.
Yeah,
it's got the elements. It's got
like 99
it satisfies those writers' check boxes, right?
Right. Exactly.
Still holds up to. Definitely still holds up.
It does hold up because even the only parts of this that rely on any real CGI are these hallucination hypnosis sequences. And they're like allowed to be weird. Yeah. It's not like they're trying to create something real. Like when the church turns black or the theater in his head turns black. Yeah. You're not like, oh, that's dumb. It's just like, oh, his hallucination turned black.
It's part of his messed up dream, basically.
Yeah, it just doesn't. It didn't occur to me to be like, oh, that wasn't realistic. I was like, no.
I did love how it was his like POV though. I remember it like you don't see him; it's just his POV of the theater and then stuff.
Yeah, that was cool.
It's got some charm, and it's right out of Chicago, Carmelo's neck of the woods in Chicago.
Yeah, it was filmed in Chicago. Yeah,
I have some locations I can talk that we'll get into, but yeah, it was very. That had to bring it home a little bit, Carmelo. A little bit.
Oh yeah, there were parts when we were watching it that I was like, I know where that corner is. Like, I know the L and everything.
It was a neighborhood in Chicago. Yeah,
I even recognized the corner bar at one point. Dude, and it's not like it's like a landmark you got to go visit. It's just just another dive. But it's
When I first saw it, I'm like, that looks like Chicago architecture for sure. Just from going downtown with you a couple times.
Yeah,
so.
And the whole like block party scene toward like the middle of the movie is like. That's so Chicago in the summer.
With the train come by.
Yeah, with the loud ass.
David Koepp, director, talked about the train a lot, being cliched to overuse it in a Chicago-based film, but got to use it a couple times for the production value and the
you got to set
feel.
the location, you got to set the mood, you know.
Yeah. So, well, let's. Do you have a little synopsis for us, Carmelo? If you haven't watched Stir of Echoes recently, we can go through.
Yeah. For those of you who haven't seen it in a while or have yet to see it, Stir of Echoes is about a family in the south side of Chicago, and father Tom and his wife Maggie and their son Jake, and they're expecting a new baby, and just kind of a blue collar working class family. And one day at a party, Tom lets his sister-in-law Lisa hypnotize him, and she hypnotizes him to be more open-minded, and unintentionally opens him to receive visions from the spirit world. And he doesn't know what's going on at first. So he's not sure if he's going crazy or what. And he can't really make sense of what he sees. And you later realize his son is similarly gifted, probably more so. And it becomes clear that they're living with a presence in their house that's trying to reach out to them. And this presence is like the spirit of this angry girl. And as Tom tries to figure out what's going on, he realizes that like this girl is buried in his house somewhere, and that he's stumbled upon some sort of conspiracy after a premonition comes true of a neighbor boy killing himself. He finds the body only to realize that his best friend and his son covered up this murder, and he gets the complete vision of these two kids attacking this girl. It goes wrong. She hurts herself. She dies. They bury her in the basement. And in the end, the visions end up saving Jake's life and Tom's, as they're attacked by the killers, and an errant bullet flies through the boy's bed, but he's not there because he had a vision of it. So after the girl finds rest, after they vindicate her spirit, she gets to go off to wherever ghosts go, and life returns to normal. But that's Stir of Echoes.
Great.
I'm afraid of the feathers.
I like that so much. That's so good.
Dude, that ending sequence of like the mom grabbing the bag, making sure the mom gets the bag because the knife's in the bag.
Yeah.
With the feathers, not going. I'm not going to come with you, mom. No, because dude,
they really do a good job of presenting the family and the house and the vibe and the neighborhood, and it just makes you feel like you just want to be their friends and like hang out at these parties and live in that house. You know what I mean?
Right. I would have set up the baby monitor. I'm going to bring it with me. Go
across the street
to a fucking kegger and like drink some beers and listen to the baby monitor.
That's some hardcore Chicago parenting.
Dude, no shit, man.
So most of what I'm going to talk about is from David Koepp, the writer, director, screenplay writer, director. And he, specifically on that part, he's like, well, I wanted to make the parents, they're a little bit irresponsible in that they've had a kid, but they still want to live their lives and party. But they got the baby monitor, so they're
right.
They're thinking about it.
Yeah.
Well, it feels very like blue collar party. Dude. They're not going to these like keggers and stuff, but it's Friday night. Let's kick back a sixer and why not? There's no harm. It's not like they're driving, so there's that. Yeah. They're not like, you know what I mean? They're not like pieces of shit, but they're also like not the Cleaver family or.
Yeah. You even see the baby monitor in like the background when he's doing like the little hypnosis. You can see it like behind Kevin Bacon. It's still there. Yeah. I do the box office.
Did you find some numbers on it?
Yeah, budget was $12 million, and for the run, and on its opening weekend, the film ranked third in box office with a gross of $5.8 million, and stayed in the top 10 for 3 weeks after a 14-week run, totaling worldwide gross of $23 million for box office. Yeah.
All right. Well, not bad. Well, let's we'll jump into it. I got actually a decent amount of notes on it.
Let's do it.
Some are very interesting, some are not so much. So
skip over those ones.
Yeah.
That's the good shit.
So David Koepp, writer, director, screenplay writer. Now he has written a lot, and this was his second directing project. Directing something that he wrote.
This is timely because he has a new film out that he just.
Oh, does he?
Oh, does he?
The Presence that just.
Did he do that?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that looks cool. I didn't even, you know what? I meant to look and see what he's done since this film, and I didn't, because I'd be curious to see.
Yeah, well, the thing he's most famous for, almost right after this, was Spider-Man. He wrote Spider-Man.
Okay, with Tobey Maguire.
Tobey Maguire. So like the first one that like made superheroes run the box office for the rest of
he wrote Mission
He
Impossible.
wrote the screenplay for that. Is what
he wrote the screenplay for
and
that.
Sam Raimi directed, obviously. Right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay. So he did that, but more recently he did Presence. So.
Did he write and direct the Presence? Is that what it's?
That's a good question.
I was wondering. I was just curious about that. But
he was a writer on Mission Impossible.
No, Soderbergh directed Presence.
Okay. And he mentioned Soderbergh. Sorry. Go ahead, Scotty.
He was a writer on Mission Impossible, the original Jurassic Park too.
Oh shit. Okay.
He mentioned that Soderbergh actually helped him on this a little bit with some feedback and was a friend. So I know Soderbergh's done a lot too. Funny, and it's not really jumping ahead because it doesn't have to do with the section of the film, but he talked about how being a writer director sometimes can be a little difficult if you don't have some kind of person to have a feedback like mechanism in place with, because if you have a separate writer and director, they're sort of both creatively involved at the same level in how the film turns out. And so it's easy for them to bounce ideas back and forth and they're both equally invested, But if you're a writer and director, you don't really have anyone that's creatively at the same level of commitment that you are. And so it can be hard, he said, if you don't have someone or a few people to really bounce back and get feedback from. So, but so it made me think of you, Carmelo, but I think that you have your brother, and then we all sort of try to collaborate on things, and
Well, that's why I'm so I don't know, kind of pathetically insular about our group as a foursome, because I don't want to do it alone. I don't want to feel like I'm the only one who cares. It's nice when I'm working on Unarmed right now, and I'm starting to get overwhelmed, but Nicholas is just as in it as I am, and I know. When I get you guys up to speed, you'll be right there with me. And we were even talking crew today, and I was like, Jason Potter. They were like, do you have a DP? And I was like, you better, damn right I do.
Damn right.
And it's when you've got that core group who can get into it with you and who know how you think and you value their input because you respect how they think, it makes it more fun and it takes a lot of pressure off, So
certainly.
So I that's why when I'm doing a project, I'm like, let me involve Nicholas, let me involve Daniel, let me involve Scotty. It's
and it's more fun that way.
Yeah, it's more fun.
It is, we can go do our own stuff. It's just I have more fun with you. So,
we have whiskeys, we have cigars, we have
exactly. Way better. We're only doing this for our own amusement anyway. I mean, if you're if you're sitting out to do Citizen Kane or change Hollywood forever, I don't think I think you're gonna miss the mark. I think the people who made the game-changing movies just set out to do what they thought was great, and then other people agreed, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, have a good time doing it.
Oh fuck yeah, that's why we do it, because it's so much fun.
Yeah, so David Koepp, screenplay writer and director, and I say screenplay writer because it is based on a book. So he wanted to do something spooky and just had it in his head, but wasn't coming up with a story. Found a book in a used bookstore by Richard Matheson, who wrote I Am Legend, he's written a ton. He's written a lot of books. I just happened to read I Am Legend in the past. Of course, that was made into a movie and is awesome. But wanted to then do the book movie based on this book. Had his producing partner dig up the rights, take care of all that, and they move forward on it. So that's sort of how the story came to fruition. He, of course, wrote it into a screenplay, but was in contact with Richard Matheson, and Richard Matheson has said that he loves the movie and thought it did great justice.
Loved the screenplay, approved it.
Yeah. And so he actually must be pretty old, because I think Stir of Echoes, his book was written, I believe in the 50s or 60s.
Yeah.
is when it was written.
Richard
So-
Matheson died in 2013 at age 87.
Wow.
So he
Okay.
was born in 26. So it was 56. You said it was written?
It's in the 50s or 60s. I think it was 50s, like 57 or something.
Yeah.
Like that.
I see it here. 58.
58. Okay. When do you see when he wrote I Am Legend? I'm just
Screw
curious
Rebecca's
about that.
was 58. Let's see. So I'll keep looking at that.
Yeah,
one.
no worries. I actually read. We were in the airport once, traveling somewhere on a family vacation.
1954.
54. Okay.
Yep.
And on a whim, I just bought I Am Legend to read on the plane, and it was pretty good. So, but David Koepp, he grew up near. He didn't say near a working class Chicago neighborhood, much like the one you see in the film. But he did say that his parents grew up in a hardcore working class neighborhood and he had family that still lived within those neighborhoods. And so he brought that element to it, really wanted it to show through. And yeah, he talked about how he actually grew. So he spent a lot of time after growing up, or maybe I'm not sure what age, but being in Wisconsin then. And that's where a lot of his like growing up took place after Chicago. But yeah, he wanted to, and he talked about how like the corner bar that Carmelo already mentioned in the block party scene was very reminiscent of, and I forgot the name of it. I should have written it down, but a pub in Wisconsin that they would go to. It's called like Ernie's Pub or something. And they had like the Ernie Burger, and it was this really good cheeseburger that was huge, and you know.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, every place has it's just relatable, you know. So it's cool.
Oh, it's like a home. It's like we filmed in Colorado. We filmed in Chicago. You know, it's like it was his home base.
And I'll get a little more into that in a minute, but Zachary David Koepp was the young kid in it, and then of course we have Catherine Irby as the wife, who did a great job, not super well known but recognizable from some things. And then they used a lot of local actors from around. David Koepp, while there, tried to attend as many plays as possible just to experience the theater scene, and ended up using a lot of local talent to do things. So, for instance, I know the guy that comes in with his son at the end and owns the house that Kevin Bacon lives in.
Yeah,
he was in David Koepp's first film and did some like voice work for him before that. Was an old friend, but anyways, it was not his wife, the other neighbor who's sort of saves the day at the end.
Oh yeah, Kevin Dunn. He's in like everything.
Yeah, he's in so much stuff and did a great job. But his wife was a local actress that did really well, and so was the guy that is like the retard. You know?
Oh yeah,
that guy.
that guy, that fucker.
He was like a local Chicago actor as well.
Oh my god,
did a pretty good job.
Yeah, Connor O'Farrell's like the landlord guy. He's worked with him before. It looks like
he has. Yep. So
that Zachary David Koepp that played Jake, he's only done like two things: this and The Wedding Singer.
Oh, okay. Well, this was his first film. He turned 6 while on set.
He was good.
Yeah, he was good. They did talk about how, and this isn't specific to him, it's any kids, and as we may know a little bit of now in film, is you just have to be ready to take your time and let them do their thing. And instead of 3 to 5 takes, they were doing 19 takes to get what they wanted out of him. And which they knew and they were okay with, and he did a great job. And they apparently auditioned a lot of kids in the Chicago area and didn't come up with one they wanted to use. No one could deliver a line without jumping out of their chair or falling around with energetic excitement. And so they cast him out of New York. And there are difficulties when you deal with children. They talked about how in the scene where he we were just talking about, where he says the feathers thing and he gives the purse to the mom. Yeah, they were trying to get that done, but he had to leave because his hours were up. You can only shoot with kids for so long, and it's barely noticeable. But she walks out the door, and then it's a blurred shadow looking, but you see him in through the glass of the door watching her leave. Then,
yeah.
Oh, really?
And they said he had to leave before they did that, and so they went a couple like door knocking down the street and found another kid and cut his hair and put him in the right there.
God.
What the hell?
He was a little stockier and put him in his clothes. Yeah.
I wouldn't have noticed if he hadn't said it. I didn't. I
didn't even notice that really the kid was in the door when she left. So,
Yeah.
you know, but I can relate. Like, you know, those moments in film where we're like, we have to get this right. We have to find the kid. They're in the back, like blah, blah, blah. And it's so important at the time. And then you see the final cut and they're a blur in the background. You're like, oh, we could have just
it's like, oh, that's
fucking dummy
exactly.
there.
Yeah.
all for nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But anyways, back to sort of chronologically here. The first thing we get introduced to Zachary David Koepp laying in his bed, and this is the first time we hear some like whispers and our first little creepy factor here. They said they spent a lot of time on these whispers in post in the sound room, just bouncing him around the room and getting him right, and so that's a little interesting tidbit. But then we see them leaving him again. We talked about the baby monitor and everything. And what's funny, another David Koepp Wisconsinite thing, he remembers the night they filmed just specifically the scene of them walking out of their house, and you sort of see this cool church off to the side there. The Packers were playing that night. This made me think of Scotty because we played a concert one night and the Nuggets were playing, and that's all he could think about.
Yeah. And because important playoff game, very important.
But that's because they lost the game that night.
Yeah,
whatever. But
yeah.
He said the Packers were playing that night, and he just is so etched in his memory that he was so distracted because the Packers were playing this big game while they were trying to shoot that night, and
really,
it was just a thing. Yeah, and I don't know who it was, but someone that knows him well or was on the crew was quoted as saying, "He's a great director, except when the Packers are on."
Oh God, David Koepp, loving the Packers, huh?
Funny.
Oh, I'd be the same way if I was directing.
Sure
Like the Nuggets were like the championship game. I'd be like checking the score on the phone. What, was that a cut? Oh yeah, sorry, cut.
Yeah, he said they were playing. Who were they playing that night at Lambeau Field?
Maybe it was an NFC championship game, or it could have been what year? This was
99, 98, 99.
Maybe it was a playoff game.
Yeah. But so he was just sort of distracted, he said. But anyway, so the cool thing about this block, I'll talk about a little bit. Well, we'll fish in and out of some locations here. The side of the street that their actual house is on, that they walk out of, that is George Street in Chicago. And then when the camera shifts and looks across the street to the party house that they go to, that's actually in Wicker Park in Chicago.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and so they were not next to each other. And a lot of the movies like this block, quote unquote, that they live on is made up of like 4 different locations. And so they actually had to build a semi-facade looking balcony that Kevin Bacon's sitting on with the monitor with his window in the background across the street. You know, they had to build just a little faux balcony across the street they were using at the time. And so I don't know why they just wanted to get the feel. They liked the party house one in Wicker Park because the train is right there behind them, and they caught the train a couple times going by, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they were like super happy about that. So is Wicker Park, where's that at, Carmelo? Is that like
Wicker
downtown?
Park's really actually on the north side.
Okay.
And it's like now, at least anyway, it's a really trendy, cool area to be in. You know, it's like the Chicago thing is for a neighborhood to be kind of broke ass. So starving artists move in, and then the starving artists make the neighborhood cool. And then people with money move in because it's cool now. And then they develop it and they price out the starving artists who then have to leave.
And that's what happened.
Yeah, basically. So in any case, Wicker Park's really fun to hang out in now. There's a ton of shit.
Okay. That's north. That's like where Chris's family is around, right? Like
her family is from the north side, but they're not
over there.
Wicker
Okay.
Park. Wicker Park's maybe a little more, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not the best with geography, but it's further south and it's west.
It's still like in traffic, like an hour and a half away from your house, right?
Well, if you try to cross Chicago in rush hour traffic, it's 2 hours to go one side to the other. If you try to go off traffic hours, 45 minutes anywhere in the city. But
wow,
it's
Isn't that movie with Josh Hartnett and Wicker Park?
There is a movie called Wicker Park, isn't there?
Matthew Lillard, Josh Hartnett,
Wicker
Rose Byrne.
I think it is called Wicker. Is it called Wicker Park?
It's called Wicker Park. Oh yeah, I cried, man.
I don't know if it has anything to do with Chicago, but maybe it does. I don't know. You
I'm not
cried?
sure.
What is it? A drama?
Yeah, it's Chicago. It's about it like a young
shit, you're right.
Chicago.
A young
it's based in
Chicago advertising executive leaves a movie season in cafes. His long lost love.
Yep.
So it's a drama. It's like a romantic drama or something.
Diane Kruger. Yeah, I remember seeing it. It's actually very emotional. I remember seeing it when it first came out back in 2004 or whatever.
Well, that's the very same.
Well,
yeah. Anyways,
all right.
Anyways,
I already mentioned that David Koepp was tight with Soderbergh, but also Brian De Palma lent some advice on this.
I saw he paid attention to the set.
Yeah, he did. They were good friends, and David Koepp actually is a man of his craft. He talked about some of these shots and how Brian De Palma would use this in his films. Shots where they're very long and they sort of span the room throughout the course of the shot, and it's not necessarily a close-up. It's more of a wide or medium shot. And so a good example was, I don't know that you would remember this just from the movie because it's one of these random things. There's a couple times like they're talking in the kitchen, him and his wife, earlier on in the movie, and you sort of get the whole span of the kitchen while they're talking. It never cuts. And I forgot what even they're fucking talking about at the time, but he just talked about how those types of shots are so much harder than they look. And when he sees them in films, they're very reminiscent of Brian De Palma and earlier cinema of like Brian De Palma and early Spielberg and things and he just really appreciates them. So, so one such shot, not as complicated as like what I just mentioned, but it was De Palma's idea to do this shot. Now we've moved into the house where he's asking to be hypnotized. It hasn't happened yet, but we have this slow push-in on Kevin Bacon that happens when he's sitting in this chair for the whole first half of this scene where they're all talking and you hear other people talking, but it's just slowly pushing in on him. And finally, when they start talking more about hypnosis, it becomes more traditional with the two shot and go back and forth from her to him. But, just sort of interesting. That was specifically something Brian De Palma was like, you should do this in this scene. Like just have a slow push in on Kevin Bacon sitting on the chair here. So they just, interesting.
De Palma directed Mission Impossible, where he was on the writer, of course, one of the writers. They probably were friends there. I did see that though, that he did stop by set and would recommended that long take of him with the long dialogue scene and stuff. And I now that I'm thinking about what you just said, I kind of do. It does trigger like oh yeah, I kind of do remember that.
Yeah. And you guys already talked about the hypnosis being pretty cool, and that was a big important thing for David Koepp, is he wanted to shoot it exactly like it described it in the book, which was this whole movie theater thing. He said oftentimes in film, it's just sort of always done the same way. Oh, someone's being hypnotized. It's two people sitting across from each other. Someone's spinning a watch, and it's it's just sort of the same thing. But he wanted it all to be from the person being hypnotized point of view, and then we don't really know what happened. And he comes out of it, and we don't really know what they saw. We know what he saw, but he doesn't have any idea. And so, Koepp said that sometimes you film a movie that just to do one scene, you have an idea in your mind, and you're like, "This is it. We're gonna make a movie."
Right.
And like he said, that was sort of what this movie theater sequence was. He had this in his mind, and he's like, "This is the way I want to film it." And the movie came out. So it is really one of his favorite sequences.
I love that.
We see it again later in the film when it tells him to dig, but he wanted to do it exactly like it was. And so he said they did. They found a theater that also had a drop down movie screen in Chicago. And of course the seats turning black and the walls turning black was all the digital
screen
effects.
Everything goes black. That's how it was in the book too, like you were saying.
Yeah, but everything else was pretty much, later on when it shows him floating in the chair, that was a crane arm with some green screen fabric over it that they rotoscoped out. And so the weird finicky thing is that they were trying to get those words on the screen very blurred or out of focus, and he said no matter how out of focus they made it, you could still clearly read what the words were. And so they had to do a bunch more in post, and it ended up looking like you can barely see anything until they come into view.
I freaking love that scene where it really fades slowly up, even when he's floating in like the chair, and it's going close to the screen. Like, oh fuck, here it comes. What's gonna happen? Something gonna jump out of the screen. What's gonna happen? And then you just see like the word sleep. Oh, okay, we're good. We're good.
We also get introduced to some of these flashes here, and obviously flashes are a big part of this film. Flashes meaning these visions he has, and they're cut very tightly and quickly together. And
her fingernail chipping off, and tooth.
Yeah. Well, I'll get to that too in a second.
Oh, the fingernail, man.
The fingernail just gets me.
God.
But he talked about the flashes being a big stylistic choice, and one of his inspirations. I just brought this up because we had just talked about Rod Steiger in the Kindred, right? But he talked about how this movie called The Pawnbroker with Rod Steiger having flashbacks of the Holocaust is what sort of inspired these quick flashes of visions that in his film.
Nice.
So I just thought it was a coincidence. Oh, we were just talking about Rod Steiger. So
yeah, heck yeah, look at that.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, too, the pin going through the hand in the flashes are what he sees. You know, I mean, he said they just paid a dude $100, and he actually did it twice.
What?
He shoved a safety pin through the skin between his thumbs.
I was wondering how the hell they did that.
God. Yeah. I mean, if I'm like completely drunk, maybe I would do that. But
you
God.
would, but you'd hate yourself for it the next day.
Yeah.
He was like, let's pay a guy $100. He did it twice.
Just a local talent in Chicago.
He didn't elaborate, which
sometimes you need someone who can dislocate their thumb, and it turns out
exactly
they're right beneath your nose
right
the whole time.
Yeah, we were looking for someone the whole time, and I'm like, wait, I think Liz can do it. My wife. What? We've been looking.
There are sometimes.
Yep, I know.
That was one of those moments I just looked at you. I was like,
yeah.
If you guys haven't heard the story, we needed someone to dislocate their thumb.
I'll take it.
In our film Sin Eater, and
oh my God.
And so we were like, oh, let's find someone we can get a close up of them dislocating their thumb. It'll look like Jesse doing it. And we were like searching for a couple weeks, and I was talking to a girl who could maybe do it, and maybe we could get her there. And somehow it came out. Scotty's like, oh, my wife can dislocate her thumb. We're like, what the fuck?
Have you not been paying attention?
I kind of want to know. Wait a minute now. Scotty, find out. Did he have her handcuffed one night, and she found her way out, and he realized it?
I think that she finally fulfilled his fantasy of her thumbing his butt. And there was like a crack, and he was like, "Are you okay?" And she's like, "No, I can. I can do this.
Dislocate it. Yeah. Keep doing that. I like the dislocation. that like little knuckle sound. Yeah.
And that's why he didn't tell us sooner. He didn't know until that happened, and then he had to pretend like he'd forgotten.
Dude. Yeah.
Oh, guys,
that's why I was trying to keep it on the
all
DL.
along and just forgot, and definitely didn't learn last night with Liz.
That's her hand in Sin Eater. So yeah, we all know that now. Finally, we found someone. Oh yeah, my wife, guilty as charged.
Yeah. No. For any tech nerds out there, all his flashbacks and visions were shot with a 14mm portrait lens.
Ooh.
So just to get that certain look. And now we arrive at the fingernail coming off, which I couldn't watch it. Like I watched it a couple times. And then I watched the commentary, and I had to look away because that just really makes me. Oh,
and him pulling his teeth out and stuff too.
I didn't mind the teeth so much. The fingernail just really got me. And he talked about, David Koepp said that the fingernail didn't really land. It wasn't doing anything until they added the wet celery crunch sound effect along with it.
Oh, that'll do it. It'll do it.
And that's what put the icing on the cake. That's what topped it off.
You didn't mention the hypnosis sister, the Ileana Douglas. She's been in a ton of stuff too.
She has.
She was really good to play Lisa.
Yeah, no, she has. You mentioned the tooth. Speaking of the tooth, the whole idea was to do this tooth gag in one shot. It didn't quite end up working that way, but basically what happens is he looks in the mirror, he pulls the prosthetic tooth off with his hand, and you can't see the bottom of his hand in the shot, and he's holding like a fake tooth with his pinky. And so he pulls the prosthetic tooth off, drops the fake tooth into the sink with his pinky. The camera pans down real quick to see that fake tooth that he dropped. He's supposed to wipe his mouth real quick, and it comes back up, and now he's clean, and like it never happened, you know. But he said something about how they had to linger on the sink too long for him to clean up, and they ended up, I think, just whip pan cutting anyways. So, but that was the idea. But he did have the tooth in his pinky and dropped it, and I actually thought he pulls the tooth out, but I think it's fairly obvious. It's just like a veneer. It's like a thin. It doesn't look like a full tooth that he.
It looks like there's a tooth
I mean?
there still. Yeah, like they must have like painted something his tooth black or something.
Yeah, I mean it's a prosthetic on top of it, but it just didn't look like. It looked like he pulled off like a covering of a tooth, not a full tooth.
Yeah, totally did.
Yeah, I thought it was weird, but then we sort of get introduced to her in a bit. The way they did these movements I'm talking about that stuck in my head, these jerky movements.
So
is
good.
they shot her at 6 frames per second and had her move quarter speed. So if you might not know, but most films are shot at 24 frames per second, which catches people moving naturally, whatever. If you were to shoot someone moving naturally at 6 frames per second, they would look like they're going very fast. They would just be, you know, a little bit weird. They look like they have a little bit of pickup speed to them. Right. But by her moving purposefully at quarter speed, like they would just say, go slow in your movements, and they shoot it at 6 frames per second, it sort of brings her back up to normal speed, but gives this weird jerky movement to it. And that's how they did it. So it's not really any kind of digital effect or anything. It's just the way they shot the film. Yeah. So
she was just walking normally, pretty much.
Well, not normally, at quarter speed. She had to do all her movements at quarter speed while they shot it at 6 frames per second.
That's a freaky moment there, and it's like all cold and has that blue tones to like the screen and stuff.
Yeah, and they pretty much do that any time she's on screen moving is what he said. So
nice. Besides the very end when she's happy and finally found.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
That's a so Samantha Kozak was played by Jennifer Morrison, and I just realized I looked her up. I'm like, she looks familiar. And I just realized she's like the main character in Once Upon a Time, the ABC's.
Oh yeah, that is her.
7 episodes. Yeah,
I didn't realize that.
What the hell?
I didn't. I never put that together.
Emma Swan and Once Upon a Time.
Yeah, but now that you mention it, that's her. I mean, many years apart.
Yeah, look at that.
Wow.
So, anyways, she did
a little Easter egg is the babysitter is reading The Shrinking Man by Richard Matheson, which is another popular novel of his.
Ooh.
David Koepp said that in this universe of his film, Richard Matheson exists and has written all the books he has indeed written, except for Stir of Echoes.
Got it.
Oh, really? Nice.
But yeah, another side note here, Koepp, I've talked a little bit about how I think he really appreciates his craft. He talked about that he had all these great ideas in his head, and some of them didn't quite make it to screen or didn't quite turn out like the way he wanted. We're about to see how far down the line it is. We're about to talk about one now with the sort of the noise and the red going on when they leave the babysitter.
Yeah.
Actually, I wonder if
Red Vision.
Oh, it is. I am at the note right now. So basically, he has this sort of red vision along with a buzzing noise to. We take that as he's being warned or something that something bad's going to happen. Something's not right, and it does come across. It comes across great, but he had a vision, David Koepp, that it would just be a sound. This would just be a sound that would happen. There wouldn't be anything visual. And that's how it would come across. And they tried that, and he tried just tons of different sound effects. And he said it didn't play until he visually put something there, because you couldn't really. It was like, is that just in the actor's head? Is everyone supposed to hear that sound? What is that?
Yeah.
And it didn't really play until they put in this red vision. And then another thing with that sequence is that he was trying to really play that when Kevin Bacon was shuffling through the crowd, trying to get in the game, realizing something was wrong, turning around, that was supposed to be very loud and in stark contrast to the silence of cutting back to the babysitter, trying to like listen intently to the baby monitor.
Yeah, that was a cool sequence where it would cut back and forth.
But in his head, he was like, oh, I was picturing this like deafening loudness with Kevin Bacon and then this deafening silence with the baby monitor.
I could see that. It was pretty chaotic during that like football stadium scene.
Yeah, and he said it came across a little, but not nearly to the contrast he wanted in his head. And then he said something I thought was cool. Coppola was quoted as saying, on a good day, he gets 25% on film of what he had in his head, you know?
Yeah, really. Yeah.
So you can picture things so much in your head and they come out a certain way on screen. And you just have to know that, you know?
Yeah. I have to say, sorry, going back, that jump scare, the first one where Samantha's on the couch and he turns on TV and it's all fuzzy and he sits back and she's like right there. I remember that moment, but it freaking got me again. I was like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
God.
I like how he tries to recreate it and you know, do the remote again and sit and look over.
Trying to do it. And he does like 3 times and you think she's going to appear, but then she's
never does.
It never happens. Yeah.
That part, Koepp said, got a little bit of a laugh. And he said that he included that because he likes, he pictures them having Kevin Bacon's not having fun with this, but it's something interesting that is interrupting his maybe otherwise boring life. And that's what we all want supernatural things to do and be. Like he said, if that would happen to me, I'd be there sitting on the couch trying to make it happen again. Like, what are you going to do if you saw something? You're going to try and make it show up again, right?
Right. That was one of the most realistic things I'd seen in any of these. You know, you like turn the corner and you see a ghost and like it's really spooky. And then I love how he just like keeps recreating it and the camera keeps going for the jump scare and there's no jump scare. And I thought, that was really clever.
Like if you turned the corner and saw a ghost, you'd be like, and then you looked and it disappeared. You'd be like, "Hold on, let me try that again." Like, let me try.
Yeah, I'd be like, "Let's."
I'm freaked to shit right now, but let me try that again.
Right. He talks people in that movie Lights Out, you know, and they turn out the light.
Oh yeah, dude.
And then they do it. They play with the light a couple of times, and it's like that is what I would do. I mean, I would be peeing my pants when you see the movie. You're like, "Stop, run!" But in real life, you'd be like, the fuck was that?
Yeah, exactly. That movie's fucking scary too.
He talked about
some scary.
Lights Out, and just the idea of it's scary, and then the movie was cool. But but he talked about a lot of inspiration he had for this film, and one of them being with the playfulness of the spirit or the haunting. He related it to Poltergeist and Craig T. Nelson, and they come home and the mom has like the helmet on the kid, and they're using the spirit like as fun because it's like drags him across the room over and over again or something. And
right.
I forgot exactly what happened, but he related to that. But he did say that the movie was greatly inspired by Poltergeist in that regard. But not only that, so I'll list off Poltergeist, Rosemary's Baby, Exorcist, Close Encounters. These are all films he said that really play hard on the domestic aspect of the family being in a house and their relationship. You know, Poltergeist, they have this family here, much like this. Exorcist is not the full family, but they're there. There's some Exorcist references. Smoldering good looks and a priest can help you out, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So, that's right. He's got some Easter eggs. One that I thought was blaringly obvious that he never mentioned is The Shining, like with the kid and the.
Oh yeah, it's so Shining.
Oh yeah,
he never even mentions it as an inspiration or a reference at all. But you have the dad and the kid here doing the same thing.
Yeah, he's got the pickaxe, and they kind of had the same visions and stuff too. And
there's
the X-ray eyes, and
Shining's one of those movies where like I just feel like if you're a filmmaker and not even just a horror filmmaker, Shining and like Kubrick shit falls under that category of like. If you are a film person, you've seen some Kubrick or you're at least familiar with his work. So it's really hard to think of any filmmaker professionally dedicated their life to it who isn't at least tangentially inspired by it. You know?
For sure.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
That's just my feeling. I mean, people came up to us after our movies and was like, "Oh, did you mean to make it look like XYZ?" And I'm like, Well, no, I wasn't thinking about that at the time, but I've seen XYZ, and so yeah, I probably was up in here.
It's probably up in there. Yeah,
So true.
It's probably the
yeah.
answer. So
Another location, the street that you see when he's trying to chase the kid down initially, and then the bus station, and also the theater where they filmed the dream sequence stuff, was in a place called Joliet. Does that sound familiar, Carmelo?
yeah, Joliet's a place, all right.
Is
Joliet,
it? Tell us
Joliet is-
about Joliet.
Horrible shithole area in Illinois. It's just this. Might as well
Is it
leave.
outside the city? Is it?
It is outside the city. It's like southwestish. It's like a different. I don't know. It's not
Okay.
a nice place to
Yeah.
go. It's not that it's that
movie.
ghetto or hood. I'm not saying it's like this dangerous place.
Yeah.
It's just this like shitty gray place.
It's like Greeley, Colorado.
Yeah,
That's
There
our
you go.
Greeley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Greeley,
They have
yeah,
they have a plant there that makes something so it always smells there. And
There you go. Yeah,
Smoke
like
like
that.
cow manure at all
Like a
times.
river that's polluted.
I would describe it as gray.
It's just not very much eye eye candy, like viewing pleasure. It's not.
Yeah, there's nothing to look at.
There's nothing to look
yeah.
at. There you go.
Another little sort of mess up that I thought was funny is he has this double dream sequence, right? Where he wakes up, the Groundhog Day type thing. And the second time he goes over there and the kid really shoots himself and he has to break the window open with, he grabs a chair off the porch or something. And you see a Virgin Mary statue in the window as he throws the chair.
Right.
And it gets knocked over, and then it cuts back, and you see the broken window again, but the Virgin Mary statue standing up, and then he claws through the window and knocks it over again.
Right.
The hell? I didn't notice that.
Yeah, I didn't either until Kepp pointed it out. I thought he was like, "There's
Yeah,
our
poor Mary
miracle.
had it.
Our miracle of Virgin Mary is okay after the chair goes through the window."
Nice.
So that happens. He shoots himself. That was that kid's first movie ever, by the way. He was a local too around Chicago.
Oh, yeah, he was.
And I know you,
both
Carmelo,
kids,
said there's,
teenagers.
and there really isn't any weak point. But if there was, I would say maybe the two brothers in the sequence. But it might have been, again, we just talked about this last film. It might have been a choice because it played very dream sequency and it played very 50s kid. He was like, well, don't you ever do anything you're not supposed to?
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
like
kind of
yeah.
corny and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like I sort of took it as like it was from the ghost perspective. You know, like it's this weird, scary situation with these like guys that kill her. She's not remembering their good qualities or them being normal. She's remembering like they're like monsters in her mind.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah.
But you're right. If there were weak links, it was probably them. But it didn't play. I wasn't watching it and taken out of it.
No.
Like,
And
to
if
that.
anything,
It didn't hurt it.
And if it was a choice, if anything, it added a little thing to remember, which was
Yeah. It
So,
added some. I mean, it made it kind of sinister. You know, that they're like trying to act like 50s, like boys will be boys, and then they fucking kill this poor girl.
Yeah.
The actress who played Samantha actually ended up being a lot of stuff.
Yeah, well, Scotty was just talking about
Once Upon a Time.
Once Upon a Time. God,
Right.
I can just spring out again.
Yeah.
Jennifer Morrison. Yeah. She's
She was in
doing
How I Met Your Mother for a while too, and
Oh, okay. I bet your mother.
one of the
All
Star
right.
Treks, and
She's been in a lot. She probably
Yeah,
been more. Well, her and Bacon and Ileana Douglas are probably the and Kevin Dunn are probably the most
Yeah.
well known.
yeah, Kevin Dunn's a really recognizable character.
God, he's been in a ton of shit.
And he did amazing too.
Yeah, and I like him too. He's he's good in everything.
He's really good. Yeah.
They another little tidbit is that it was supposed to be the song was supposed to be "Break On Through" from the Rolling Stones. That was the whole.
Oh yeah,
The other side.
Yeah, but they couldn't get it for some reason and had to go with "Paint It Black." And I had to include this tidbit because
Painted Black's better.
Painted Black was so tied to this movie in my mind when I was a kid. I don't know why. It was just like it was in the trailer. It only shows up in the movie briefly once, but it was all over the trailer.
How could they get that and not break on through to the other side?
Who knows with those things? I don't know.
Break On Through is the Doors, isn't it? That's not.
Oh, is it? Oh, you're right. You're right. It is the
That's
Doors.
why I was
you're
just
right.
saying, if they're the same artist, yeah, it is Doors, right?
Oh, you're right.
Doors.
I'm
I
an
just
idiot.
feel like if you can afford the Stones, you can afford the door. I mean, am I wrong?
Morrison,
Jim Morrison must be a stickler.
Maybe it was, but
who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. The Stone song is great in this. It is.
It is great.
Yeah,
I get to see how thematically the Doors song.
It's kind of creepy.
Yeah, break on through. Yeah, to the other side.
But and correct me if I'm wrong, the version of Painted Black that plays in the movie when
it's not the Stones.
It's a cover, right? And
yeah, it's a cover. Yeah.
Yeah. And we learned about this in our own filmmaking experience that, and as like a copyright lawyer, I can tell you, you can get different kinds of rights to things. Okay. And one of those, like you can get the sync rights to the song. Like you can use the song in connection with this movie and only with this movie. But that's different than getting the rights to the master recording that the song is.
Sure.
Right. So you can get the sync rights even for a song like that, for maybe something like in the 20s of thousands of dollars, right?
Okay.
Like in that kind of range. And then you can have someone cover it for you for just a few grand. You can even have them cover it for you in a way that sounds almost exactly like the original. Like they didn't quite in this, they kind of did let it be their own cover. But that's way cheaper than getting the master.
That's crazy.
The master recording rights are probably in the six figures.
Yeah. Wow.
So even like any movie you see that's like 3 million or under, if they've got a recognizable song, they probably licensed it for like 20 grand and then paid a cover band like 2 or 3 grand to do their own version of it.
That's cool that's allowable that they can do that. That makes sense.
For our any fellow metalheads, the Black Dahlia Murder has a amazing cover of Painted Black that I'm sure they paid $0 for and just did it. And I don't know what the legalities are surrounding that, but it's awesome.
Well, sometimes you just get away with stuff.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, was that Night of the Living Dead that Jake was watching when?
Yeah, I actually had the note. Actually, at first it was a Hammer film. That he was on that had the money in it,
and then Samantha kept turning it to the.
Then it switched to some weird, creepy kids show called Lidsville at the time, or from the 70s, I think. Koepp said it was from the 70s. Lidsville, I think it was what he said it was called, which is ironic because he said it looks way creepier than the horror films that were on.
Yeah,
these weird ass.
Oh yeah,
Meet the Feebles running around.
Kids film, that was kind of disturbing. It does look like Meet the Feebles,
but then it does go to Night of the Living Dead after that, which famously has no rights associated with it or something like that. Isn't that like a thing that Night of the Living Dead is public domain or something like that? Or at least these days, I thought it was a thing. But I could be wrong.
Was it Night of the Living Dead or was it another? I think it was Night of the Living Dead.
It was Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah, it was. Well, it was. It's like public domain. Like it's in so many movies now because there's no rights for it. Like you can just use it.
I think it's a thing. I thought that was a thing. Like when we covered it, we talked about how they lost it and it like became public domain due to fault of people not doing the right shit to copyright.
Yeah, you got to renew your copyrights and stuff. And
so I don't really recall, but.
Yeah, that was kind of a cool sequence where the bathtub steaming hot and then she cools Samantha cools it and then it's just to go in the basement to light the pilot light.
He talked about how of course her cooling the steam disappears and it sort of like draws into her. You can sort of get that from it. And
there was a lot of steam there.
Yeah, the water becomes. I think that's the only reason the digital steam works is that it's surrounding specifically her, who's also. Like not really there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when she's initially filling the bathtub, it's real steam. It's not real steam. They smoked it. It's like haze or smoke.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
And then when she's sitting there stirring it, of course that's all digital steam. And I think the only reason it didn't bother me a whole lot is because it was like
it wasn't.
She's not really real, and it's not really. It's just sort of all this weird shit.
Yeah. It's like the supernatural shit happening.
Yeah, and she sucks the heat out of everything, so that's why obviously that happened.
Right.
So it goes down there and everything. What I thought I had more notes about that, but maybe I guess I did. Yeah, it was digital steam right there. But anyways, the kid. We were talking about how the kid shot himself. Then they go on to the cemetery scene. They actually built those statues that Jake sort of references. He talks to for a second. Hi there. Which I thought was cool, but also a little bit extra. But yeah, they built those 3 that are there. Yeah.
Did you notice anything? Did you know anything about him doing like the voice, like Jake's voice? And
they talked about how all they did was
that was kind of creepy.
They just in post, what they call it, they messed with a harmonic something, and it halfway through the sentence, and bam, it was something super duper simple. They said
that was cool.
They said they tested it a bunch, fucking with the voice for like the entire line. So when the whole line, not just the drop in the middle, and they tried all these different voices, and they tried messing with it, and it just didn't sound creepy or right at all. And they finally just simply dropped it like in the middle of his line, and they thought it worked great, and they got a lot of gasps from audiences and things like that. So I will say, upon rewatching yesterday, it's I don't know if it's aged the best because they've done so much with audio these days, but it's cool. Yeah, it's creepy.
Anyways, I'll go back to where you were.
Yeah, but also they go to the cemetery. They built those statues for it there. And then they talked about how this was sort of a rough shot with a kid. You had this crane shot of him, not really a crane, but a dolly shot of him walking in and walking behind these police officers, and took a bunch of takes, and they were running out of daylight. And if you can't really tell on the film, but the reverse between him and her towards the end where the cop is talking to her back and forth, his section of it, it's like basically nighttime, and hers, it's still that golden hour.
Oh, really?
But I couldn't really tell while watching it, honestly. You're talked about it.
The cop or Jake?
Yeah, Neil, the cop Neil. Yeah. So, and to his credit, Koepp said that he actually met with Spielberg before shooting this to get his advice on working with kids, because Spielberg's famously, has great performances from children in his films. And Spielberg just said, you have to be able to let them paraphrase and like don't have the parents work the material too much with them, because, and I understand that if they get caught and it has to be said a certain way, they'll just fumble over that over and over again, you know. But if they can sort of just say it in their own way, and you just communicate that to them before each take, I think, he said that let them do their thing, and you'll get some of the best unscripted lines of the movie that way.
Yes, and more natural acting, reactions and stuff. Yeah.
One other funny thing. Now we move into, we've met Neil. She's the she goes out to meet him instead of him. Yeah. He's all distracted playing the beginning of Paint It Black on his guitar, and the kid's there. And so she goes out, and Koepp said while scouting for that alley that they used, he actually stepped in human shit while they were looking at the alley.
Jeez.
Like, I think this place is ratty and
it's Chicago.
Low grade enough.
That'll happen.
The Chicago Tourism Bureau actually intentionally spreads human feces into certain alleys just to set the mood,
Oh, yeah. You want to feel like you're in authentic downtown Chicago.
Somewhere.
How do you know it was human shit? It could have been. He had a vision.
I think human shit is fairly distinct. I mean, I guess if you had a big dog, it could look similar, but I don't know. I don't know how they know.
I mean, the homeless guy's got to go poop somewhere, It's right there in the alley. Why not?
That's true. Koepp's wife actually plays the woman at Ileana's house or apartment, whatever it is, when Kevin Bacon goes in and is like, reverse it. You got to get rid of this shit in my head.
The Spanish that's talking the Spanish.
Yeah. So that's David Koepp's wife. And he said that that's supposed to subtly hint that she's a lesbian, but he's like, it turned out not to be very subtle. Everyone just assumed that's what it was for.
Yeah.
And his wife graciously stepped in to do that.
She did good.
And then another element of the film is orange juice, right? Like there's orange juice. He just chugs, and it makes you want to chug orange juice.
I need to go buy cartons of orange juice tonight or tomorrow.
No, I'm so thirsty. As soon as you said orange juice, I was like, damn it.
Chug it straight out of the carton too. Like,
doesn't watching those sequences just make you want to chug orange juice?
It does.
Oh, yeah.
But even as I was watching, I was like, there's so much fucking sugar in that. You can't drink orange juice.
It's true.
And his whole fridge is like lined with cartons of orange juice.
But like, I guess seriously, if you were like sundown to sunrise to sunset, just digging or smashing concrete, like you probably will use all those calories.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's very
Oh,
true.
dude.
That's very true.
Swinging that pickaxe. Oh my God.
When he gets very thirsty after these, whether he's working in the backyard or it happens after both hypnosis sessions, he doesn't spring. You'd spring for water, but he springs for the Miller Lite the second time.
Yeah. Oh, dude, that light ice cold beer will quench your thirst. I don't know if orange juice, because I guess orange juice does kind of quench the thirst.
You guys are killing me right now. I'm gonna get something to drink.
You're thirsty. You do. Yeah.
I got some ice water right here.
I got a little water. I finished my whiskey already. Now I have this water right here.
Go for it.
But anyways, so the orange juice David Koepp just said is random. There's no real reason. There's no real
orange juice.
He said it doesn't really have a purpose. He just thought it'd be cool if he was obsessed with chugging orange juice.
Yeah, not Gatorade, not water, not milk. I like the orange juice. I do. It is refreshing.
Yeah,
apple juice just to put a little twist in it.
I'm not a big fan of apple juice. I don't know.
I like it. It's
really
a lot of sugar too. Yeah, I like apple juice. I probably like orange juice more though.
I'd rather chug me some orange juice.
Yeah.
Getting down on the apple juice
straight out of the carton.
Did you notice that when he's digging? This is just my note. Did you notice when he was digging in the backyard and started arguing with his wife that there's like a neighbor in the background just watching them the whole time? I didn't notice it until I watched the commentary.
Maybe. I don't think so.
There's just a guy like standing in the yard next to them in the background.
Maybe I did see
just
that.
Watching, like he's very in the background. You can't see a face. He's sort of a silhouette. And he's just watching them like the whole time.
I wonder if that was planted there, or if he was just.
That's what I'm wondering too. And I was expecting David Koepp during the commentary to at least say something. Oh, we put our grip back there, or we wanted to have the neighbor back there just for this reason or that reason, but he didn't say anything about it. Yeah. So I'm wondering if there's no way it could be accidental. Like if there's a dude in the background just watching while the camera's rolling, they would have fixed that. You know what I mean?
Maybe,
they would have been like, we got a guy in the background, like move him out.
They would have seen that. They would have been like, I know it's your house, buddy, and we're filming here, but sorry.
Yeah, unless he was an asshole, unless they're like, someone went over to talk to him, was like, could you please like stay out of your backyard while you're filming? And he's probably like, fuck you guys, like you didn't rent my place. You know?
I'm gonna watch the filming. I want to get this. I want to see this. I'm not moving. I want to be in the movie.
I just thought it was strange that he would just be there sort of watching over there.
I think I might have remember seeing a glimpse of that, but I'd have to go back and watch it again. How funny that is.
I don't know. It was weird. This is also the part where he sort of predicts the phone call, and she gets the phone call about her grandma dying,
Oh, yeah. That's right. Comes in, they have that big fight.
This was another thing. This was another thing that David Koepp wanted to take right out of the book was not right. It is right out of the book, but he changed the dialogue slightly so that it reflected a vivid memory of his. He said that he vividly remembers the news of his grandmother dying happening like that. His mom answered the phone, was like, what? And then she did, and that was it. And he like knew he was in the other room and he heard that and he knew his grandma had died.
Yeah.
And so he wanted to just have the exact same thing happen here. He said he did that a lot in this film. He said the house greatly resembled the house he was living in at the time. And so did Richard Matheson said the same thing about the house, that it very much resembled the house that he was living in when he wrote the book. And then same with the Chicago stuff, and then this thing about the grandma dying, and he just worked a lot of personal things in there, which he said is what he likes to do, because he said he feels like a more quality film comes across then, because he can sit there and write spy movie scripts, but he's never been a spy and can't relate to that,
Right,
but he has two kids and has this family aesthetic and can portray that in his screenplay.
Yeah.
And that's what came around. Carmel, while you were grabbing a drink, I'm just curious, did you, when they're digging and him and the wife start fighting, there's a random, I didn't notice till my second watch through, there's a random neighbor in the background just watching him the whole time.
I did not notice that. Holy shit, really?
I didn't really notice it either. I just watched
it. Guy, like a silhouette in the background. And during the commentary, Koepp didn't mention it at all. I was waiting for him to be like, oh, we put Bob in the background to just have like someone there. But now I'm like, was there some asshole neighbor that like they requested to steer clear of his backyard, but he just wouldn't do it, or so, you know what I mean?
Right, exactly.
There's a qualm that I had. So I know like he goes over to Ileana's house, Lisa, and he sees the second vision, tries to get her to reverse it and change me back, whatever, and he sees the word dig. Like it's going to be Samantha that's like talking to him through that hypnosis. It seems like, hey, here's where to find me, dig. Like, I'm not leaving your mind until you find me and I bring my body to justice. Like, she could have put like break brick or
not dig. Dig
or
is
knock
the
out
right word.
Or knock out wall.
Wall would have been better.
Basement wall. Like dig or maybe though.
I don't know if you could fit basement wall on that screen.
Yeah, wall. Because he's digging, and he doesn't have to dig. He just has to knock on a wall. He doesn't have to dig on a wall.
I know, that really sucks.
But yeah, he wastes so much time, and he digs up in the house, and it's like it was in the wall the whole time. But maybe she hates the house. She just wants it completely torn up.
I like that.
She hates the neighbor. He owns the house. He's the one that owns it. She's like, fuck up his whole damn yard.
He's in on it.
Yeah, right.
And he's in on it too. So it's like, fuck this whole thing up. I'm gonna have him dig, and then at the last second, I'm gonna make him like slip and hit the wall behind him.
Koepp did say that he's sure the owner of the house they used wasn't thrilled about the backyard.
Oh yeah, I bet.
But the interiors of the house was all on a set, and the exteriors were on location, obviously. So
yeah,
I mean, the yard's. Hopefully, they at least filled the fucking hole.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah,
you can fill them in and put sod down.
I'm sure the yard wasn't even in good shape to begin with. It was probably one of those weed yards that was
exactly.
Like weedy and
no one takes care of. Yeah.
So whatever, you know. And also, and you wonder this while watching the movie. He kicks the bucket and it breaks the window. Totally unintentional.
Really? That was amazing.
Totally unintentional. He said Kevin Bacon had the good know-how to just keep walking like it was supposed to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
He said it totally was not intentional at all.
So they ended up using that take then.
Yeah.
That's great.
The bucket right into the window.
Because you never know, something good like that happens, you know?
And talking to the guy that owned it. Yeah, we dug up your backyard. We broke
your window.
Broke your window.
She breaks it too. His wife breaks it when she slams
the door. Yeah.
Breaks the window too.
That's true. That's true. Yeah,
Maggie.
But I thought that was fun.
Yeah, that was great kick.
But then he does, we see the whole sequence where the hose doesn't work. He goes into the basement, and then he looks at the basement floor, and it's like, oh, this might be where I'm supposed to dig. There's a little cool jump cut there where he starts to climb the ladder, stops, gets down, looks down at the floor, and then you think it's reversing to what he's looking at, which it does. It shows the floor. But then the next thing that happens is the pickaxe comes into view and hits the floor. And so the director talked about this, how it was essentially a boost forward in time. Like it wasn't just the reverse of him in that moment. It moved forward to him with the pickaxe, right?
That makes sense to me.
Yeah, and he said that he pulled that directly from Jaws. I guess there's a part where they're talking about, oh, you're not going to get in that shark cage. Like you're nuts, right? And then the reverse shot, where you would think would be like his reaction, is actually just him like in the cage then. You know what I mean? So it's jumped jumped all this exposition or anything that didn't need to happen. And he's like, he thought the audience really appreciates things like that. And so
it jump cuts right to that moment.
Yeah, it was like very intentional. It just jump cuts to that moment.
But he had already gone out to get the pickaxe, gone back down the stairs, but it just jumps to it.
Yeah, exactly. But you talked about how, the axe hits the wall, and Koepp wasn't really happy with that. So at this point during filming, they shot this towards the end, and he's just running out of time. He talked about how,
what's that like?
How are we going to find the body? Oh, I think we ran out of time trying to find bodies in a wall.
Right? Yeah, we sure did. I had to have a little hissy fit with some of the crew, and we finally were able to get some of that stuff.
Animal bodies.
But so he talked about how if he had the time, he wished that shot would have gone differently. He thought that the crumbling wall looked a little bit janky, and that thinking back, he would have got it from overhead when it hit the wall. Like it would be this overhead shot of Kevin Bacon digging, and the backswing would hit the wall, and it would be this overhead shot.
It
not
looked
like
more like an accident that way.
yeah, and you wouldn't see the wall look at quite as fragile, you know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then he also said that him pulling it apart was it's tough to get, and they ended up going with Samantha's POV for most of it, which we see from inside the brick, from inside the plastic, because they weren't getting what he wanted from the other side. But then he did say he ended up thinking that was best anyways. Like, we were forced to do that, and I think it was best anyways.
Yeah, I agree completely. The POV from inside the plastic's creepy. Like,
It was great.
That's
Yeah.
creepy.
Yeah, and he said that, of course, if they had more time, they had a little more budget on any given day, if they were doing that, he wasn't getting what he wanted, they would just move to something the next day while the crew rebuilt the wall. And they did it again and again, but they just didn't have that luxury, you know?
Yeah.
So, and again, he was running out of time. And this was when Kevin Bacon runs over to tell the neighbor that he found all this, and like, I want you to know first but I'm going to go to the cops, you know?
Yeah.
And he was saying that they had the rain going, they paid for the rain, and Kevin Bacon had been waiting around for 4 hours to do that scene, and they were running out of time. He said, Kevin, all right, it's time. You really have to get this in like one take because we're basically out of time.
Jeez, really?
And he said he said that was it. He nailed it. That was the take. So
Really?
Nice. He nailed that.
Bacon's
that one
awesome.
take. Yeah. He said there was one moment where they clashed a little bit on set. It was some noticeable shot when they were in Ileana's apartment, and before she tries to hypnotize him again, they're like over by the corner window, and it was supposed to be this like 2-shot, but they ended up doing one of those shots I described with De Palma, where it's sort of just like a wide on both, and
Long
they're sort
dialogue
of
shot.
coming around, long dialogue, and they clashed on that for a little bit. Like, they started to do it traditionally, and Kevin Bacon said the pacing's all off, it's not working, and director was like, well, I think it should be this way, and then he sort of had to leave and cool down, and he thought about it, was like, well, maybe so, and then they found a way that they could collaborate and do it right.
Oh, jeez.
So he was like, ended up working great, and he just said, I think sometimes if you don't have some of those tensions, it doesn't turn out as good as it could have.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah, you need that. I agree.
What's funny about the rain that I mentioned, they had this fake rain on set, is the wife on her way there and then getting there, it's raining on her car, of course, while she's driving. And they specifically picked a night to do that quick little insert shot when it was pouring rain. And they did it, and he said that the actual pouring rain looked super fake. And so they really actually had to do fake rain to make it look real.
What? Oh, that sucks.
I don't know how it
What
looked
are the
fake.
chances
He said
there?
it did. Yeah, he said it looked fake. So, yeah, I think that's pretty. I got just a couple more here. At the end when she's sort of freed up and she walks out the door and the car comes around the corner and goes through her ghost. You know that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, that was
Samantha's ghost.
That was completely Kevin Bacon's idea.
Oh, really?
And so was the clasping of the hands in front of the moving truck as it pushed in.
That was great.
Because they wanted a way to. Koepp talked about how, when it's over, it's over, and sometimes there's too much at the end of endings, and he wanted a non-verbal way to sort of show that everything's in place, so that it didn't slow down the pacing. And
Right.
that they thought that was a good way to do it.
I liked it. Yeah, she walks off. She has her red coat on. She's free, and she's happy. And then the car kind of runs into her ghost.
Yeah.
You can tell that she's gone off to where, like Carmela said, wherever ghosts go when they're happy.
Yeah. It was kind of a cool way to do it, where like she's walking off, and at first I was like, oh, that's kind of neat. And then the car goes through her, and I thought, okay, that was a good little flourish at the end.
Yeah, yeah. Like, okay, she's going off, and then like the U-Haul truck pulls up. Of course, they're moving out. The place is demolished, and you see that hand grab where
they're good now.
I love
they're
you.
good.
Good, finally.
And the ending, of course, ultimately is them driving and the kid hearing the whispers from all around and dealing with it. But that's what we see. He had one written, an original ending, that you actually saw the birth of the baby because she's pregnant, I guess.
Yeah, she's pregnant.
He's pregnant.
Okay, that's what I thought.
But
Yeah,
not too far along.
Which doesn't come up often.
yeah, it does. Yeah, I didn't even remember.
It's mentioned
now.
in like the first, like the second scene
That's
by
right.
Ileana, and that's
right.
it.
So the original ending was you see the birth of the baby, and somehow it's portrayed that baby is also psychic, like the kid, and that was going to be the ending. But
And then
yeah, but a little involved, of course. And he just said he liked the idea of the kid hearing the whispers and everything and passing through his house.
That was better. That was
and he's plugging his ears like, God dang it.
yeah.
Yeah,
That was a
it's
good
something
way to
to
show
live
that
with.
like it's not over, but it doesn't ruin the movie. It's not like some stupid jump scare where the ghost is still mad at you, like the girl from the room.
Yeah.
But it was like, hey, it's still going on. So let's just be straight about this for a second. We've all thinking it. This kid has the Shannon, right? He's got the
He has the shiny. He does.
Yeah.
For sure.
The cop calls it the eyes. He's got the eyes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it's like a bald, like charming black guy, just like Scatman Crothers in the
Yeah,
show
that's-
that played Dick
It
Holland.
That's
is. That's slightly
Shannon.
feminine. Might be a little feminine, and
Right,
got
right.
the shine.
the shitting. You want to get sued? Shining.
I'm glad you know what I was doing.
Yeah.
I guess we'll know in Stir of Echoes 2 with Rob Lowe when we cover that.
I never watched.
No,
I don't think I ever watched that.
It got like pretty bad reviews. I was looking into
It's
it.
like American Psycho 2 with Mila Kunis, probably.
Yeah,
yeah,
a bunch of
it got
bullshit.
some. It was like it looked like it was some decent reviews, but not
Really?
nearly as this.
I mean, compared to Stir of Echoes 1, it's not that worse reviewed on IMDb.
yeah,
Okay.
It still looked like it decently got decent.
Maybe I'll give it a
reviews.
watch. I don't know. Maybe I'll-
I mean,
I don't even know what it's
I like
about.
Rob Lowe a lot.
I like Rob Lowe too. Yeah,
But it's like 6.9 versus 4.5. And
yeah.
you really got to take these with a grain of
Oh
salt.
yeah, you take
you
those.
do. You
yeah,
do.
You gotta take those.
I mean,
with a
because there's
grain of
movies like Flatliners that's like a pretty well loved classic 6.6, you know?
Yeah.
salt. Yeah, and like the older movies always have higher.
Oh, it could
higher
be the
rating.
shittiest older movie ever, and
matter
it's
what.
a 9.8
Exactly. You're like,
Yeah.
come on now.
or a 8 point. Any movie past like 88 has a 8 or above on IMDb. It's just
Right.
it's just a given.
I know. So yeah, you gotta take that in account too.
Yeah,
The
but
Homecoming. Stir of Echoes, The Homecoming. That's what it's called. Yeah.
I think that wraps up Stir of Echoes.
I was gonna do some reception there. It said that the reviewers felt that a lot of the reviewers felt the film suffered by being released shortly after previous high-earning occult films of the year, The Sixth Sense, and guess what else? The Blair Witch Project.
And
1999.
Kep did say that obviously he has no control over what else gets released. He said that this was unfortunately released and he didn't name names, alongside many other similar films at the time, and at the moment maybe got lost in it, and he just said that he hopes it will stand the test of time and not be remembered alongside those other films.
Oh, it was great. I mean, it's got overall now. I think it's almost a classic, and it's a lot of reviews on IMDb and around. Oh yeah, it says The Mummy was also with Brendan Fraser.
That's a great movie. But, I mean, that's a little, even that, I guess it's horror, but it's action adventure.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is very similar to Sixth Sense.
I would say Sixth Sense is the
For
main
sure.
standout. Like the others.
And that's tough because that's one of the most famous movies of all time.
Yeah.
But I think the fact that like we're going back to look at this now after all this time, and even looking at the IMDb rankings, like the movie is going up in popularity, probably because David Koepp continues to be relevant. And so I think that plus the star power of Kevin Bacon, plus it's a good movie, I think it will stand the test of time.
Well, and this, now that we have covered it and we'll release this in a little bit, we set the standard, as we know. We've brought Pizza Hut back to life, and
that's true. We are the arbiters.
I mean, you can be ready for Stir of Echoes to be more popular than Sixth Sense now.
You should get ready for the Stir of Echoes reboot.
Oh yeah,
the video.
We haven't even covered Sixth Sense yet.
That's true. We didn't have it. What's Sixth Sense? Yeah, we single-handedly saved.
It's that movie, Signs.
Pizza Hut.
No, that's Signs.
Yeah. Oh, I like Signs, but
Yeah.
I just want to give a quick shout out to my friends Cal and Kristen, without whom I would not have watched this movie and without whom we would not have be covering this right now. They were right. They were razzing me about movies I had not seen.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I was 10 when this came out, so
Yeah. No, I
Dude,
forgive
well,
you.
me and Danny watched this. Like, I didn't even like. It was kind of on my radar, but I didn't really think about it because it's there's so many out there. But
Well, it just feels like any movie that you saw, I still feel like on this podcast, if I experienced a movie being released and coming out, it's not old enough to be a cult classic.
Yeah, exactly.
But we're old now. We're like,
but we
getting old.
right.
Like,
we grew up.
yeah.
We're like Nightmare on Elm Street was the classic, and that was 20 years old when we were talking about it. Like a
Yeah.
classic.
This movie's 26 years old. I mean, like, God, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember like I had to dig the DVD out of my DVD collection that's like buried in my basement and like,
Yeah. I'm
or
glad
I
you
guess
had it.
it's upstairs. But yeah,
seems-
I had it with the special features. Yeah.
It seems like DVDs with the special features, and maybe I'm wrong, I just don't shop around for these things anymore, but it seems like those were more the norm and the standard back then. Like if you bought a DVD of the movie, it had the special features, it had the
I
commentary.
agree completely.
Yeah,
I
it feels
agree.
like now you have to scour, maybe not scour, but you have to at least check and make sure you're buying a Blu-ray that like has the features you want on it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's true. There's a lot of versions of the movies, and they get released and re-released without the quality stuff that you're looking for. And my whole thing, and I think this is what you were saying, so sorry if this is a repeat, but if I'm going to go through the effort of collecting the physical media, then I want the collector's experience. If I just wanted to watch the movie, I could just stream the movie. The experience
Yeah.
is the same.
For sure.
What's funny though is that Scotty had that, and I happened to own like Dusk Till Dawn, and it had all these special features, and
Yeah.
we've never watched any of them before. You know? Like, we
Yeah.
have it, we bought it.
We never watched the special features. Yeah, is what you're saying.
When I was young, I would watch a lot of them because remember, you couldn't call up anything you wanted at any time. So it wasn't like now where
That's
I could watch a new show every day and I would not ever catch up to the amount of content there
It's
is.
true.
No.
No, that is very true.
I
And
don't have that time.
and it depends on your level of love for the film. I
If it's Evil
fanboyed out.
Dead.
Yeah, I fanboyed out. I've watched the commentary on my Evil Dead. I don't know if it's on other ones, but I had the old. We've done this from. I had the old Book of the Dead, Evil Dead,
Yeah.
and it simply has a Bruce Campbell commentary on it. It's him by himself.
Yep.
And I've watched that fucking commentary like 5 times because he's so entertaining to listen to when you watch the movie.
Yeah. Or
So-
my other favorite commentary on The Exorcist TV.
Oh god,
Oh yeah,
so bad.
William Friedkin that just
Greatest audio
narrates the
commentary.
entire movie scene by scene.
Oh, god, the worst.
Oh
Yeah.
God, man.
But anyways, so no,
Rebecca's.
that's Rebecca's. I think on our next episode we're gonna cover The Gate. I just got to make sure I can find the special
we're gonna do
features
it?
and stuff.
Nice.
But I thought that was a good choice. We should
Yeah.
do The Gate. I remember
do The
that as a kid. I don't remember the details, but I remember watching it as a kid and it being pretty entertaining and a classic. So I think we'll do that next.
With Steven Dorff.
Yeah,
Is it? Okay, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Man.
young Steven Dorff.
Young Stephen Dorff. Yeah. So, all right. Well, let's move on quickly to what did you watch? And actually, to be honest with you guys, we recorded and released the last episode, and we're recording this one pretty early because we're out of town next weekend when we would normally be recording it over Valentine's Day weekend. So we probably haven't watched a whole lot in the last 5 days since the last time we recorded, but
Are
maybe
we releasing this Wednesday early or next Wednesday?
I was gonna do the normal time next Wednesday.
Gotcha.
So we just recorded, but you guys won't hear this for about. I mean, it doesn't matter to you guys, but it'll be a week and a half from when we recorded this, basically.
Gotcha.
So,
I actually did watch a fair bit, like
Okay.
unusually so this week. I watched a movie because I was sick, so I just had shit on. I
yeah.
watched Due Date with Zach Galifianakis and
Downey Jr.
hilarious.
So
yeah,
that's
that's
funny.
great.
That's a good
great.
one.
And then I watched this one I want to cover. Have you guys heard of Ghostwatch?
I don't know if I
So
have.
this came up when I was doing like press for Name the Demon, and one of the podcasts asked me, like, have you heard of Ghostwatch? I don't know how we slept on this shit. But it was Paranormal Activity. It was Late Night with the Devil, like 20 years earlier. This was one of those things where, like, you remember when Orson Welles in like the 40s did a radio broadcast of War of the Worlds and people thought it was real and aliens had invaded?
Yeah.
This is what happened. The BBC aired this documentary as a live broadcast, and they presented it as a real news story investigating a haunted house on Halloween. They used real BBC newscasters in the documentary, and it fooled people. And over 1 million people called the BBC thinking it was real.
Really?
PTSD. It led to a suicide.
What?
Part of the gag was that you could call in to see, I saw a ghost, I saw this, or here's a haunted thing that happened to me. And you couldn't really. If you called in, they would say, hey, we use the normal BBC call in, but it's actually a program. It's all fake. But too many people called. So the lines were jammed. So no one got that message.
Wow.
And meanwhile, if you're watching the show, calls are being taken.
Wow.
It was creepy as fuck. And
you watched it?
I watched it and it was great, and we should cover it because
It's on Shudder. I saw.
Yeah,
I see it. Ghost Watch. I see
aired
it.
it one time.
TV
on
movie.
Halloween in 1992.
Wow.
And it never aired again because of all the damage it caused. And it was so popular because I know you're going to ask me, where can we get some special features? 2017, they produced a whole documentary about the documentary.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It did freak you out though, huh? It was good.
Stuff.
It's reminding me of the one we watched for when we guested on Aaron's podcast, Scotty, that whatever, the KNWB Halloween special or whatever it was, where it was something similar.
Similar idea,
it was I think it was more obviously a gimmick, but
okay, gotcha.
Because it was made earlier to look like that with vintage commercials and stuff like that, sort of a cool little thing. But
that's right. I remember that.
I'll have to check that out. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's creepy. And remember, it's 92. It's not going to have any crazy special effects, but it's on par, I think, at least in terms of what you see and don't see. First Paranormal Activity. You could see the influence.
Really?
And the immersiveness of it is what made it land.
I'll check it out. Okay. I gotta check it out. We should cover it.
And I think even at the end, if you're like, if I've oversold it, I think at the end you'll say you can see how it influenced so much after that it's worth us covering it. Yeah. Because it's clearly influential on every found footage movie after.
1 million people calling in thinking it's a real thing. Like that's
millions of people, including the host's mother. The host was a real BBC newscaster, and she was calling the BBC because she thought her son was in danger.
Oh my God! Jeez, I gotta check it out for sure. Ghost Watchers.
What, did you watch anything, or is that it, Carmelo? Did you watch anything else?
I've started watching the cartoon Samurai Jack, and it's fucking awesome.
Oh, okay. All right. Do you watch anything, Scotty?
I finished that series, The Perfect Couple. That's more like suspense thriller with Nicole Kidman, and I found out who the killer was. So
nice.
I'm not gonna tell you guys, but me and Liz started White Lotus, that popular TV show.
You know what? I got
how is it? 4 or
5 episodes in, and it lost me.
I just watched one episode, so I'm not sure about it yet. Yeah,
I gave up on it.
Really? Okay, we'll see how it goes.
It was very popular, so I don't know.
I know it's only 6 episodes the first season, so it'd probably be an easy watch.
No one rushed out to watch Mads, the film truly shot in one day.
I haven't had time this week.
Shit!
That's all right. That's all right.
I want
Mads. I need to watch. I saw a trailer for it right after I got off the podcast last week, and it looked really awesome.
Yeah, no worries. I watched the first season with Shannon of Yellow Jackets. I haven't watched that yet, which is on.
Kathleen was recommending that.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's starting to turn more supernatural now. It's like plane crash, soccer team. It was on Showtime, in 2021 or whatever, 2020, and was very popular. It's got the girl from Fallout, the main girl from Fallout, if you've watched any of that, and then a couple other people. But it was pretty good. A little bit unrelated, I finally watched Carry On with Jason Bateman and Taron Egerton. It was good. It was a nice little Christmas. They released it around Christmas, touting it a Christmas type movie, but it really isn't. It takes place on Christmas Eve at an airport, but that's the only thing linking it to Christmas. There's no mention of Christmas again after the opening. They're like, oh, it's New Year's Eve. Christmas Eve.
And it's
Joel Edgerton and Jason Bateman.
Nice. Okay.
Jason Bateman plays like the bad guy and does a really good job. He's not.
Oh yeah.
He's not in a funny role at all and does really well.
Nice.
So,
I'll have to check it out.
It's pretty good. It's like just a fun thrill ride, you know.
Nice.
So it's a good time. He's like Egerton is like works one of the machines you go through security and you put your shit through, you know.
Yeah.
On the conveyor belt, and Bateman is basically forcing him to let a suitcase come through that has something in it, and he's holding people hostage and things like that. Yeah, so it's pretty good. But
nice.
Yeah. So, but no, that's about it.
I didn't watch anything else either.
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, it's only been a week, so hey.
Yeah.
Since we were just here, so
I will go watch Mads. I'll watch Mads.
Yeah, check it out. It's crazy how they must have done it. So
I still want to watch the one with Demi Moore too.
Substance was
Substance.
good.
I gotta see Substance.
It was good. Yeah, good stuff.
I want to go see Presence. I want to go see Hard Eyes. I want to go see Wolfman.
Yeah, some Hard Eyes.
Hard Eyes looks good too. Wolfman for sure. Yeah.
So, all right, guys. Well, yeah,
guys.
I think we're gonna try. I got to find it, but I think we're gonna do the gate next. And
the gate.
But so maybe plan for that, but we'll see what happens. And hopefully Rob will be joining us for that. So,
all right, guys.
All right, guys. Well, yeah, thanks for joining us. We'll catch you next time.
Later.
Yeah, later, everybody.
Don't you blame the movies. Movies don't create psychos. Movies make psychos more creative.
Oh, yes. There will be blood.